Do you ever feel like you're doing everything right, but still getting nowhere? You show up early, stay late, you do your job, sometimes more than your job. You say yes to the extra projects, you make your boss look good, and still, no promotion, no raise, not even a real conversation about moving forward. It's frustrating, and it's confusing, because growing up, we were told that hard work is the path, that if you just keep your head down and grind, someone will notice, that if you give 110%, eventually the rewards will come. So when they don't, when you feel invisible despite all the effort, it starts to mess with your head a little. You begin to wonder, what am I doing wrong? And maybe you're not doing anything wrong in the obvious sense. You're not slacking off. You're not causing problems. But here's the truth that a lot of people don't say out loud. In today's world, hard work alone isn't enough to get you promoted. That might feel unfair, but it's also freeing, because once you understand why, you can actually start changing your situation. So today, I want to have an honest conversation about why promotions don't always go to the hardest worker, and what might really be holding you back, even if you're doing all the right things on paper. This isn't about blame. It's not about making you feel like you're falling short. It's about shining a light on things that no one teaches you in school or even at most jobs, especially when you're balancing career, family, and everything else that comes with being an adult in your 30s or 40s. My goal is to help you see things more clearly and walk away with a few shifts that can actually move you forward, not just at work, but in how you advocate for yourself in every part of life. Let's start here. Promotions are rarely about effort alone. They're about perception, value, and visibility. Let me explain. There's this woman I used to work with. We'll call her Anna. Anna was the kind of employee every manager should want. Smart, consistent, kind. She took initiative, trained the new people, cleaned up messes without being asked. But year after year, she was passed over. And the person who kept getting promoted, honestly, he worked less, but he was always visible. He spoke up. He presented ideas in meetings, he sent the recap emails, and made sure the right people saw the results. Meanwhile, Anna just assumed that her work would speak for itself. That's the first hard truth a lot of us have to unlearn. Your work doesn't speak for itself if no one knows you're the one doing it. It's not about bragging, it's about owning your contributions. Advocating for yourself is not arrogance, it's necessary. Especially in environments where people are busy, distracted, and often thinking more about their own work than yours. Now, if you're someone who grew up being told don't make waves, or just be grateful to have a job, it might feel uncomfortable to self-promote. But I want you to hear this. Advocating for your growth is not complaining. It's not entitlement. It's maturity. Because promotions aren't a reward for loyalty, they're an investment in potential. You have to show that potential. Not just through effort, but through presence. And speaking of potential, this brings me to something else that quietly blocks people from moving forward. Doing your current job too well for too long. Sounds strange, right? But stay with me. If you become indispensable in your current role, some managers will hesitate to move you because they don't want to lose you where you are. You've created stability, reliability. You're the go-to person. But being essential at your current level can become a trap if no one is preparing to replace you. Think about it like this. If you run every meeting, solve every problem, and quietly handle everything behind the scenes, who's learning to do it after you? Promotions require succession planning, so sometimes part of leveling up means mentoring someone to do what you do, even if you love being the expert. It means letting go of certain tasks and stepping into more strategic conversations. Which is hard when your identity is wrapped up in being the one who holds everything together. But growth almost always requires release. Here's something else that often holds people back, and it's a little more personal. Waiting for permission. You know what I mean? Waiting for someone to notice your potential. Waiting for the boss to bring up career development. Waiting for a green light, a signal, a formal invitation. And look, I get it. You don't want to be pushy. You don't want to come off as ungrateful. But the truth is, most managers are busy, or distracted, or they assume that if you were unhappy or wanted more, you'd say something. So if you're sitting silently hoping for a tap on the shoulder, you might be waiting a long time. One of the most powerful things you can do is initiate the conversation. Ask for feedback. Express your interest in growth, not just in vague terms, but with clarity. Say something like, "I really enjoy what I'm doing now, but I'd love to know what the path forward could look like. What would it take for me to move into a more senior role here?" That question alone can open doors. Even if the answer isn't immediate, it starts a dialogue. It plants a seed. And when you combine that with real visibility, with mentoring others, with advocating for your own development, you're no longer just an employee. You're a future leader. You're someone they can see in the next level. But here's the part no one talks about. It's emotionally vulnerable to step into that, especially if you've spent years working hard, quietly hoping someone would notice. It takes courage to stop waiting and start asking. It takes courage to say, "I believe I'm capable of more." Even when you've been told to be grateful for what you have. You're not being ungrateful. You're growing. You're allowed to want more. And that desire, it's not a flaw. It's a sign of life. A sign that you still believe in possibility. And that's something worth holding on to. Now, there's something else that's a little harder to talk about, but it matters more than most people realize. It's the way we show up emotionally in the workplace. Sometimes what holds people back isn't their skill set. It's how they're perceived in terms of energy, mindset, and emotional presence. You could be hitting every performance target on the list, but if your attitude, tone, or body language signals that you're checked out, resentful, or overwhelmed, it can quietly shift how others experience working with you. Now, I'm not saying you have to fake being chipper all the time. You're human. You're probably tired. You might be dealing with things outside of work, family stress, financial pressure, burnout, just trying to hold it all together. And none of that makes you less valuable. But in a professional setting, perception still plays a role. There was a period in my own life, early 30s, just had my second kid, juggling deadlines, daycare, trying to be everything to everyone, where I was completely maxed out. I wasn't showing up with my usual spark. I wasn't raising my hand in meetings. I'd get frustrated more easily. And while I didn't think it showed, it probably did. I was doing the work, but I wasn't bringing the same energy. And honestly, people noticed. It wasn't until I took a step back and gave myself space to recover and recalibrate that I realized how much my internal state was leaking into my external image. If you're feeling stretched thin, this isn't about blaming yourself. It's about checking in gently. Ask yourself, what kind of energy am I bringing into the room lately? How do people feel after interacting with me? Am I showing signs of burnout that might be misread as disengagement? Because here's the truth, especially if you're aiming for leadership. People don't just promote based on ability. They promote based on trust. Can this person lead others? Will they be able to handle pressure, make clear decisions, manage conflict with maturity? Emotional steadiness matters. Not perfection, but presence. Even just making an effort to connect with others, listen with intention, or stay calm in stressful moments, it builds credibility. Sometimes the real growth work isn't about working harder. It's about becoming more emotionally grounded, more self-aware. And sometimes that means taking care of yourself behind the scenes so you can show up better in the spotlight. That's not weakness, it's leadership. And that leads into something else that quietly holds people back, especially in their 30s and 40s, getting stuck in the "I'm not ready yet" trap. You'd be amazed how many capable, smart, deeply qualified adults are holding themselves back because they don't feel ready. Maybe you don't check every box on the job description. Maybe you've never formally led a team. Maybe there's still a little voice in your head saying, "What if I mess it up? What if I'm not enough?" That voice is common. But it's also lying to you. No one feels 100% ready. Most people figure it out as they go. Promotions aren't about being perfect. They're about being willing to step into more, willing to learn publicly, willing to be uncomfortable and grow through it. And here's the kicker. The people who get ahead are often not the ones who are the most qualified. They're the ones who believe in their ability to figure things out along the way. They're the ones who say yes, even when they feel doubt. They show up, they stretch, they try. It's okay to be nervous. It's okay to not have it all figured out. But don't disqualify yourself just because you haven't done it yet. You can learn, you will learn, Most of the time, the only real difference between someone who's promoted and someone who's not is the belief that they belong in that next level. You don't need to wait until you feel 100% confident. Start acting like someone who can lead, make suggestions, offer to run the next team sync, ask to shadow someone above you. You're not pretending, you're preparing. You're proving to yourself and others that you're capable of more. And I want to pause for a second here because I know some of you are doing this in environments where promotions feel political or biased or inconsistent, and that can be exhausting. Sometimes it's not about your effort at all. It's about the culture, the structure, the leadership above you. If that's the case, I just want to say, it's not you. You're not broken. You're not lazy. You're not invisible. You're in a system that might not be built to see you, and that hurts, but it doesn't define your worth. And it doesn't mean you have to stay stuck. What you can do is start building leverage. Start developing skills and visibility that you can carry with you wherever you go. Because the moment you stop tying your entire value to a title or one company's opinion of you, you start reclaiming power. You start playing a longer game. You start thinking like someone who's not just trying to be chosen, but someone who's creating options. And that's the real shift that changes everything. Something happens when you start to shift from how can I prove myself to how can I grow into the person I want to be. That shift changes how you carry yourself at work, but also how you show up in your life. Because promotions at their core aren't just about climbing a corporate ladder. They're about stepping into a more powerful version of yourself, a version that trusts their voice, that sets boundaries, that knows they belong in bigger rooms. But let's be honest, it's not always easy to believe that when you're getting passed over. When the people around you seem to rise faster for doing less. When you're trying to do your job, care for your kids, keep your relationship from falling apart, and still find time to figure out where the hell you're going in life. And yet, here you are, still showing up, still wondering if maybe, just maybe, there's more for you. And that hope, that little flicker that says, I think I could do more if someone just gave me a chance. That's worth listening to. Because maybe what you're waiting for isn't a promotion. Maybe what you're really looking for is permission. Permission to stop waiting for someone else to choose you and start choosing yourself. Let's talk about one more piece that doesn't get enough attention, especially if you've been in the same role or the same company for a while. It's the quiet danger of becoming invisible through comfort. When you've been in a role for years and things run smoothly, it's easy to become part of the background. Reliable, yes, but routine, predictable, no longer seen as someone who's actively evolving, more like furniture than fire. And it's not because you've stopped caring, it's because life gets full. You're not 22 anymore. You're raising kids or caring for parents, or just trying to hold on to the few scraps of energy you've got left after a long day. But here's the thing. Staying too long in comfort can be just as risky as making a move before you're ready. If you've stopped being curious, stopped learning, stopped speaking up, it might be time to reawaken that part of yourself. That part that used to have ideas, that used to ask, what's next? That used to dream about a version of life that felt a little less like existing and a little more like becoming. You don't need to burn it all down. You don't need to start over. Maybe you do need to stretch again. Take a class. Ask for a project you're not sure you're ready for. Offer to mentor someone newer than you. Start building momentum, not just for your job, but for your sense of self. Because when you grow, people notice. When you take initiative without waiting to be told, they start seeing you as someone who can do more. Even if they don't say it right away, even if the system is slow to catch up, you're lighting something in yourself again. And that matters more than any title. Now, I want to take a second to speak directly to the part of you that's maybe tired of trying, the part that's disappointed or jaded or thinks, I've done all of this already and it hasn't worked. Why should I keep going? And I get it. I really do. But if no one's told you this lately, let me say it now. You are not behind. You are not invisible. You are not too late. Sometimes the system is broken. Sometimes you're in the wrong room. And sometimes you've just been too busy surviving to even think about thriving. But it's not over. And you are not stuck. You have more power than you realize. You You have more experience, more wisdom, more resilience than you give yourself credit for. And that next version of your career, the one where you're recognized, trusted, elevated, it's not about becoming someone else. It's about finally letting people see the full version of you, the one that's been growing in the background all this time. So maybe today is the day you stop shrinking. Maybe today is the day you speak up. Ask for the meeting, set the goal, update the resume. Look around and ask yourself honestly, is this a place where I can grow? And if not, maybe the promotion you're looking for isn't up a ladder, it's out the door. You don't have to stay in places that don't see you. You don't owe loyalty to a system that's not investing in you. But whether you stay or go, know this, you are allowed to want more, and you're allowed to go get it. You're not stuck, you're just at the edge of a shift, and everything you've been through, the frustration, the plateaus, the years of showing up without recognition, that wasn't wasted. That was practice. That was preparation. You've already proven you can work hard. Now it's time to work smart, to advocate, to stretch, to lead. Not because you have something to prove, but because you're ready to become someone who no longer waits to be chosen. I'd love to hear your experience with this. Have you ever felt overlooked? What helped you break through? Or what do you still struggle with? Drop a comment, share your story. I promise you're not the only one. And if this message spoke to something inside you, go ahead and like this video and subscribe to the channel. We talk a lot here about growth, not just in your career, but in your life. And your voice, your story, your growth, it all matters. Keep going. You're not behind, you're building something real, and you're just getting started.